Hey, Alice. Thank you for joining us in our new space we got here. The Mad Tea Party is now the corner of a room, but we're gonna figure it out, get things in place. Still in the process of doing that, but you came at a good time because I have some very special guests here. I have Kendall Cage to my left,
How's it going?
and Michael Novo is joining us from Hell currently. Uh,
Yes. Hello.
that's
I'm okay. I'm okay so far.
good, good. It's better than some places I'm sure we've all been. Hell can't be worse than like I don't know. I've been in some dives I would say are probably worse than hell.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, we've you know, we've played at the Cobra and we've played at and we've played at Dark Matter and we've seen those bathrooms. Not to mention there's some clubs up here in Buffalo, Mohawk Place, we've been in those bathrooms as well.
Oh my
So yeah,
God.
Hmm.
there are some places that probably smell worse than hell, but
Yeah. Speaking of hell, y'all have a new release coming out November 22nd called Escape from Hell and the Way Back.
Yes. Yeah, that's gonna be the first collab with this guy in Russia named Kier. So his project is called Slashcore. Um, so yeah, it gets dark just as like a lot of we have a little dark influence in our music, but he kind of takes it at a different level. And kind of like what we're doing, it's just gonna be a 4 song banger EP.
Nice. Have I heard any of that? Have y'all performed any of that live?
We it's gonna be all right, so 4 songs. One is just ours, one is just slash gore.
Hmm.
One is ours featuring a verse with Kier, and one is slash gore featuring a verse for me.
Nice.
So yeah, that kind of trade off.
yeah, so you've heard versions of at least two of those songs live from us. Yeah, so not exactly what's going to be on the EP as Kendall just mentioned, but you have heard certain versions of those songs. Yeah, we have performed them. So
Yeah, it was yeah, so what it was going it's like 2 songs, Rabbit Hole and Hideous are gonna be the ones on there. Hideous is going to be the one with Kier's verse on it. Kind of adds like this growly, kind of spooky tone, which kind of fits the whole Hideous theme.
Nice.
Um, we're gonna try and pitch it for some like B or C movie licensing, like horror movie kind of licensing. We'll see what happens with that.
That'd be sick.
Yeah.
I love B-rate horror movies.
oh yeah, like Terrifier.
Yeah. I've only seen the
Yeah.
first one. I heard the third one was really good.
Oh yeah, so far I've just seen the first and second one. I haven't had a chance to see the third one yet. But yeah, I mean, I understand, how some people can be a little turned off by just like sometimes it seems like gore porn, you know what I mean? But at the same time, like that character of Art is pretty cool. So yeah, I mean, if we could attach our music to a director, like that, it would be awesome. So
Nice. Are y'all big into horror movies? Is that a specific interest?
uh I
I'm
I
into
I am. Yeah. I don't know about Ken, I'll let him answer, but yeah, I definitely am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I get into it. It just depends who I'm hanging with. Like, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna seek out Terrifier and watch it on my own.
It's
But
not, I gotcha.
yeah, but yeah, if I'm with the right people, I'm totally down.
Yeah. Not a specific interest, but you're not like a totally opposed to it. I
Yeah,
got you.
I get into more like the psychological horror,
Hmm.
like what lies beneath that kind of shit. There's dead things, but not so much blood and gore. You
Yeah.
know?
I've always been more into the disturbing psychological stuff more than the slasher stuff too.
Mm,
I like the slasher stuff when it's like really like really cheesy, like really over the top.
Oh yeah, yeah, but it's just ridiculous. Yeah,
like
of
guaranteed and
course.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah, or like obviously like Texas Chainsaw Massacre is just a masterpiece film and it's a slasher. But like those are few and far between. There's so much garbage to get through
Oh,
to find those.
I feel like the horror genre and then all of its subgenres, like you just said, specifically like the slasher genre is just, yeah, loaded. There's so much to get through, yeah, in terms of just trash movies because you can make them on such a low budget, you know what I mean? And it's just like, yeah, you gotta find those gems. So absolutely.
Yeah. Is so I guess you guys can answer this in whichever order you want to go, but whoever wants to go first, what kind of music was in the house as a kid when you were growing up? Like what played in the car?
Yeah, we'll let Kendall take it.
Growing up, I wouldn't really know about what I do now, but my parents had this weird mix. My dad was into like classical music, especially horns, strangely. My mom was into Motown. Growing up in the car, we would have these like Billboard top 40 or top 100 um, tapes from like, I mean, the decades were in like the 50s and 60s,
Mm.
so like Billboard in the 50s and 60s. And I remember there's this John Fogerty tape from CCR, and that played nonstop. My
Mm.
brother, I think I had to hide it from my brother at one point, and he's still mad to this day. Um, yeah, that was about it. And then like around my teenage years, yeah, I had a very different adolescence, but I got into Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn
Mm.
Manson, and took a hard turn,
Yeah.
very different direction.
How involved were you in like the music scene there? Like, did you go to shows?
Um, I didn't go to shows until later. I had gotten
Mm.
in a lot of trouble when I was a teenager and got kind of locked up, incarcerated, all that stuff. So I think I went to my first legit concert on my own. I was 17 or 18, but I was still in this residential treatment facility, and they let me out. I was watching Cold Chamber and Type O Negative, um, somewhere in Rochester, New York, and smoked weed for the first time again in years because I'd been, in institutions.
Hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I was kind of like after that, I was basically out on my own and thriving in the Rochester goth scene. So,
Right on.
yeah.
What influenced your move to Nashville?
I was trying to do this a very deliberate big fish in a small pond approach
Mm.
up in Western New York. After maybe a decade or so, I mean, COVID hit, and then like I had every excuse to not have a job and just reevaluate my shit, and seemed like I might be able to get a little farther in a city with more resources. So
Yeah.
came down here.
What do you think so far?
I like it. I'm so averse to cold at this point. Up around the Rust Belt, fuck the snow, man. Like I can actually appreciate fall now because it's not this harbinger of like 9 months of ice age
Yeah.
and like overcast weather. It's nice. Like I don't, yeah, it just doesn't feel shitty when the leaves are falling.
Yeah. Trade-off is our summers kind of suck. How are summers in New York?
Summers are the only good months, in my
Okay.
opinion, my humble ass opinion.
It's so
Um,
humid here. Like, I feel like even when it's like hotter places, like certain parts of Texas, they're just, or like Arizona, where it's just dry, or California, like the temperature might be hotter, but like Tennessee summers suck because it's so like just you're just wet all the time.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're just moist.
Yeah.
You just walk outside and you're instantly moist. By the way, I just need to interject here. Kendall said, fuck the snow. Can I just say that this new project, right, Kendall Cage, our very first show that Kendall himself booked
yeah.
in Nashville just happened to fall on the worst fucking snowstorm day in Nashville history this last January, January
Yeah.
Yeah.
18th. Like every band canceled, okay, except us.
Oh
And
my
like
God.
so yeah, so he's like saying, "Oh fuck the snow." Our big huge debut show, right? Kendall
Yeah.
Cage, and it's like snowstorm. Like
Yeah.
really? He moves to Nashville and we play during a fucking snowstorm. Yeah.
I don't know how to book a show without snow. Yeah.
It heard what you said and it's like, all right, bet.
Yeah.
You're averse to snow? Fuck you.
Yeah, right. Here you go.
You
Oh,
have
you're
all
trying
the
to do
snow.
something new musically? Yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Mike and Era come down and we're walking through the snow. Like everybody's boarded up in their houses, and Mike and Era are like, what? And just how in the snow.
Yeah, that's when I had Taco Blanco. I was driving around like nothing, man. Had a big ass white Jeep. It was
Yeah,
all-wheel drive. It was awesome.
I
Hell
forgot
yeah.
about that. Yeah, Taco
Yeah.
The
Blanco.
Taco Blanco. Yeah.
What about you, Michael? What kind of music did your parents listen to?
Yeah, so my mother was the main driving force with music. She listened to what I guess you can consider now classic rock. So she was into like Bruce Springsteen, Van Halen, Rush, bands like that. She introduced me to them when I was like super young. I loved watching all the drummers. It just got me, banging on pots and pans. And then and I'm trying to think how old I was. Like in '92, whatever, I was like 7 or 8, I don't know. When when Mortal Kombat the movie came out, I got that fucking soundtrack, right? And there's so many industrial bands on that soundtrack. That soundtrack is
Oh,
killer.
nice.
And between that and White Zombie's Astro Creep, which also, I mean, these are from my mom. My mom got me the soundtrack to Mortal Kombat. My mom got me White Zombie Astro Creep, and I just fell in love with like the industrial genre from there. And I was just like, I was set. And then, like Kendall said, once once Nine Inch Nails and Marilyn Manson came around, I was like,
Mhm.
oh yeah, these are my bands, and like this is
Mhm.
what I want to do, and this is the type of music I want to make. So. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, and I still like classic rock. I still like Van Halen and stuff. I mean, they're fucking awesome. I actually got to see David Lee Roth and funny, my very first concert, which is such like a typical first concert, was Kiss. So, so like, yeah, the very first concert I went to, I just see a bunch of dudes in makeup with fucking pyro and just crazy shit, and I was like, yeah, I want to do that. Like, this is
Yeah.
this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. Yeah,
Are you
but
in Nashville as well?
I'm not. I'm up in Buffalo. So yeah,
Oh, okay.
when we play shows in Nashville, I drive down, and then when we play shows up in Buffalo, Kendall drives up. We kind of did that for the last year, and we played some awesome shows in both states, in Tennessee and New York. But yeah, we want to kind of move back to touring now. Like these
Yeah,
one-off shows back and forth, they kind of take a toll, on you.
sure.
So yeah, we want to definitely hit the road now. But I do plan on eventually coming down to Nashville. I mean, I've been saying that for years to Kendall, so he's probably sick of hearing me say it. But I just have some ties with family up here that just need to kind of be settled before I can move away and get down to Nashville. So eventually, eventually I'll be there.
It obviously would create some issues with like being able to like to practice, which I'll ask y'all more about that here in a second. But I think there's probably advantages to that too, right? Like you can kind of both, I don't know, like you have your foot in, did you say Rochester or Buffalo?
Buffalo, close to
Yeah.
Rochester, but
You
yeah,
got your
Buffalo.
foot in Nashville, you've got your foot in Buffalo. Like you
Yeah.
kind of have like
Mhm.
keep and maintain connections in two places. Like
Oh
that's
yeah.
some benefits to it.
Yeah,
Mhm.
plus it's they're both East Coast, which is great. So we got like that, that connecting line of the East Coast. So like when we eventually do hit the road again or whatever, it's like we can just Buffalo to Nashville and Nashville back to Buffalo and hit all those cities in between. So,
Yeah.
but to touch briefly, and then I'll let Kendall talk about this about the practice thing. I mean, living in the digital age, and I mean, we grew up, before the internet was a huge thing, but the fact that the internet exists and the fact that the music that Kendall writes, it's electronic music, okay, at its core. So it's easy to be shared, and ideas can be shared instantaneously just with a click of a button. You know what I mean? Be like, hey, this is what I'm working on. Check it out, or I need you to learn the drum parts for this. So even though we're not physically together, just as I said, living in the digital age, it makes it that you can still be in a band and you can still
Yeah.
musically communicate in a way that works. But if Kendall
Yeah.
wants to add anything.
Yeah, no, it's basically what it is. We're just taking advantage of technology any
Sure.
way we can,
Yeah.
and might as well use it to set this up.
Yeah, I mean, something like what y'all are doing, it's not like necessary for y'all to be in the same room for sure.
Well, we have been in the same room, like practicing
Mhm.
enough, like we're familiar enough with like how we can trust each other on like a lot of ways just because we've been doing this, like playing in bands together for a while. Um, so there are some advantages, like there are some performance nuances that I would want to like woodshed in an actual practice space, but until that day comes, like we can totally put on a show. up
Yeah.
until then. There's some songs like we never played until the soundcheck right before the show.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Night of No Return, which might be one of the best ones we've had.
Oh,
Yeah,
it is.
first time we played
Don't
it
be
together
humble.
was a sound check for sure.
Wow.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. That song's killer. That's got to be, in my opinion, I can say this because Kendall's the one who wrote it. So in my opinion, I think that's the best song that Kendall's ever written. It's called Night of No Return. It's fucking awesome. He nailed it. But yeah, just the funny little nuance thing. So we've been playing it a couple times, right? And we have this like, this kind of like outro piece to it, right? And I hit my cymbals in a particular way, and we were performing, and Kendall was like all performative and hyped for one of these cymbal hits, and it just wasn't something that I was doing. And he was like, "Mike, come on, man." He's like, "What the fuck? Just hit the fucking second cymbal." Like I was hitting him on one and three instead of one, two, and three, and he's out there in front of the crowd, like throwing his fist in the air, and there's just silence. It's like I totally embarrassed him, not intentionally, not intentionally. It was just, but this is tying into the whole like sometimes there are issues that can happen when you're not in a room together
Hmm.
rehearsing these, where something like that could have been worked out and it could have been woodshed, like, hey, this is how I want the outro to happen. We're all good now. No more embarrassing Kendall. But yeah, every now and then something like that will happen where you're like, oh man, this is something that could have been tweaked if we just would have had a little more time to practice together. But it happens.
Well, I mean, I've seen y'all play twice, and I really like what y'all do. I was actually going to
Thank
ask, you're a really good front man. Like, do you
you.
have experience on stage outside of this?
um, like outside of music,
Like, you
that
just
is.
you're very comfortable, it looks like, and maybe you're not, but you look very comfortable and confident,
I got a few
and
reps in there.
and like you move around, and you're good at you move a crowd. You're really good at that.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I mean, just being in different bands and stuff.
Okay.
Life hack or musical hack, I should say. People in original bands need to join cover bands. People in cover bands need to
Mm.
join original bands because there's a lot that the two like areas can learn from each other. And cranking out hours of covers, like those 4 hour nights where you're just like you're there to entertain, like you kind of fall into. I mean, I'll speak for myself, but I'll just move around the stage with a mic out of boredom. Like I've done this shit
Mm.
so many times, like it's either get into or get bored.
Gotcha. So you have a lot of experience with different bands being on stage.
Mm,
Okay. Yeah, that it definitely shows because like yeah, y'all just put on a good show. I really enjoyed both the sets I saw y'all play.
cool. Thank you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Um, it is it I think there's something to that too, where like if you're not in a cover band, maybe I mean maybe just, try that and like you can always like getting outside your wheelhouse has never been detrimental to anyone.
Yeah. No.
Like getting new experiences has never hurt any, well, except like falling off a building is a new experience, and that definitely hurt
Yeah.
people. I don't know what I'm talking
Some you
about
can't come
anymore.
back from.
Yeah. Did either of y'all grow up in religious households?
Yeah, kind of. Mine was a weird religion. It's called Christian Science, which is
Interesting.
not Scientology. Um, but yeah, I grew up without medication, and
Okay.
there's a part of me that kind of feels like my parents used it to be cheap in a few ways. But yeah, it's very metaphysical in the way that like at its core, the idea is that our lives and our experience is spiritual and not physical, and any kind of physical ailments or problems that we go through are just a lack of connection to God.
Okay.
And at our core, like we can basically just, I mean, it's kind of like the Matrix, really. Like, this shit isn't real. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
and they'll try to. I'm not trying to out all of Christian Science, but my issue with it is that they'll try to be all scientific and logically like prove their point, but they'll just turn a blind eye to all the evidence that kind of
Mm.
refutes their claim. Um, so it's interesting like that. And most of my animosity is really just at my dad, not so much the religion itself. It's just the way my parents used it. You know?
Understand. I was raised Jehovah's Witness in a very devout family. So I don't know what exactly that, but similar, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I think I can't speak for that, but what I grew up in was a cult.
Yeah.
Like, it's a religious cult. So I mean, yeah, how I guess you said mostly animosity is not at the religion. But I guess you're not, are you still a Christian Scientist?
I wouldn't consider that, although it would be. It does kind of feel like home, just because I was
Yeah,
raised with it, you know. So it would be kind of amusing if some point in my life I just kind of like went back to church.
sure.
Um, so I don't necessarily like agree with everything they're saying, but I understand their heart's in the right place, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, dude,
Um,
totally. Yeah.
but yeah, it's more like there's nothing malicious or sketchy about Christian Science at all.
Mm.
I just disagree with a bunch of the points. And my dad, it wasn't like a cult or anything, but my dad, if if it was Catholicism, he would be a priest. Like he's a very pious, kind individual, and just lived by religion because that's like where he found his path,
Yeah.
you know. So a lot of my frustration with Christian Science it really just boils down to me going to my dad for questions about life, and every fucking answer was follow God. You know, it was getting really frustrating. Like I'm just asking for financial wisdom. You know,
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, man. That's, yeah.
and he's doing his best. You know, I can't. There's nothing like malicious about it, but
That's so mature, man. That's what I used to have a lot of resentment towards, which I mean, my parents didn't really use it, like weaponize it against me like that. But like I had a lot of resentment towards my parents when I was like an angsty teenager. And it took me like growing up and being an adult to realize like they literally just did the best they could.
mm,
Like they did what they knew. Yeah. But that's like a real like a point where you realize like the people that it's not always malicious. Sometimes as people we're all just adults are just confused children
Yeah.
acting like we got it figured out, but none of us have any idea what the fuck is going on at
but
all.
the
Yeah.
irony is that that's what religion, in my opinion, that's what religion is for because we
Hmm.
grow up and we don't have a parent anymore. So when
Yeah.
we're trying to like figure out what the fuck we're making sense of this world, we don't have parents anymore because they got eaten by bears or whatever the fuck. Um, we just need to ask questions to whoever the hell is in charge, and
Yeah.
there's nobody in charge anymore. So it's like we're either paralyzed with fear out in the world, realizing none of this like person who saved my family yesterday could get eaten by wolves today, you know? And like there's tragic shit happens. And like we just need to ask why to somebody. And
Hmm.
when we're adults, like we usually don't have any parents around to ask anymore.
Yeah,
Unless
man.
it would create something else.
I don't, yeah, at this point in my life, I think I have a deeper appreciation of religion than I ever did when it was like forced on me.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and like I totally agree with you. Like my gripes with organized religion, I think are probably the same as yours, where I have an issue with doctrine. It's like this is the weirdest book ever written, the most complicated piece of literature ever. And y'all want to tell me what it is and isn't about.
Yeah.
It's like you don't know any more about this than I do. And even if you do, it's like it should still be a conversation. You know,
Mm,
it's not. That's my issue with organized religion is doctrine, where it's like you're going to dictate to me what this is, but you
right.
don't know any more about this than I do.
Yeah. It's just like your translation of this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I think this is not exclusive to any denomination of Christianity. I think Christians, a lot of the time, um, know less about the Bible than like some atheists. Because atheists, like especially the annoying, obnoxious atheist types, like will study it. That way they have like points to bring up when they
Hmm.
want to debate Christians. Like they'll be able to reference scriptures about like some fucked up shit. But like I don't I mean, even growing up, like Jehovah's Witnesses kind of pride themselves on reading the Bible, but like a lot of that stuff I've lost, and a lot of even, they didn't all practice it like the way they say they do. It's like my point with that is I don't think a lot of Christians actually read the Bible. I think a lot of Christians go to church and listen to what the pastor, the preacher, the priest tells them.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah.
I do kind of like, I do want to let Mike answer your question about the religion
Oh,
and stuff,
it's all
but
good.
I think like the most fascinating thing that like I used to hate religion, especially Christianity. That seemed to the animosity towards Christianity seemed to disappear after 9/11. It just didn't
Mm.
seem like they were the only assholes on the planet. But what
Fair.
kind of
Yeah.
made me relax about religion is like I got fascinated by the idea of like the significance with the anthropology and just like as a society, as human beings in a society, like kind of waking up, so to speak, looking around, trying to figure out what the fuck are we doing here? What is all of this? And it's like just trying to, I can see where their values came from. They're
Mm.
just like observing the world, trying to figure out what they should be doing. If there's anything like guiding
Hmm.
above, like looking for some sort of direction, some sort of sign. And I can see how they came to the conclusions that they did, and just like imagining society as like a single person just kind of waking up and wondering what the fuck am I,
Yeah.
you know, and trying to pinpoint some system of values like what should I be doing with this. Yeah, this seems to be what I'm supposed to do in this world because that seems to be what keeps us alive, you know. This
Absolutely.
must be what God or whomever wants. So they, yeah.
I totally agree with that, man. There's a reason religion exists and it has a value and a purpose. And it's sad that like the mega churches and I don't know, certain groups have given it such a bad reputation that everyone is like, so especially like people, I would say probably like most Americans right now, like in my generation, are like so quick to just throw out religion and like ignore some of the values and the reason that it is important. Um, it's just like we don't need this and just get rid of it. But it is actually like America specifically is founded on a set of Christian values. Like you have what is it, inalienable rights recognized by God, which they've kind of done away with the in God we trust stuff. It's become more secular. But it's like it was founded on the idea that you have these God-given rights that are not given to you by the state or any man. It is recognized that as a free agent in the world, you possess these rights. And like, I don't know. I think there is a lot of value in that.
Mm-hmm.
It's we shouldn't just throw it all away. I think the same is true like you could use 9/11 as an example. Like there's plenty of good stuff in the Quran. There's a lot of like secular Muslims, I would most of them, you know, but like then you have like like literalist fundamentalists that want to use the entirety of it and treat it like a war book and use it as a political cudgel to basically excuse horrible acts against fellow people. And the same can be said of Christianity, like Dark Age Catholics is like this is a political thing we're doing, but we're using religion as the face of it to go take over all these lands.
Justify it. Yeah.
Yeah, to justify it. Um, yeah, it is sad. It's like the most powerful tool, but in the wrong hands, it become a very powerful weapon.
Mm-hmm.
It's yeah, power is not good or evil. It's how you wield it. But I'm getting off on a tangent here.
Mike,
No, no, it's all good.
did you have
No,
a religion growing up,
a
Mike?
good conversation. I'm not going to interrupt a good conversation, but yeah, religion, especially religious books. are kind of like the internet. You can find what you're looking for. You want to look for something good, you want to find good in it, you'll find good in it. You want to find bad in it, you'll find bad in it. It's easily perverted and easily manipulated on either side, whether you're talking about the Bible, the Quran, or anything. Yeah, there's bad and good in both. So I agree with you about you just have to be smart enough to recognize that it's not all bad, there is some good in there. I mean, like personally, yeah, I'm not a fan of organized religion, but am I like disgusted by anybody who's religious or anything? No, of course not. If it helps someone get through their day-to-day life, if it's improving their life in some way, I'm never going to hate on someone for whatever, religion they believe in. If it helps them, that's great. I just don't need to be a part of it personally. Um, but yeah, and then what Kendall was saying before about Christian Science, and it's not just Christian Science, but other things where it's like, yeah, there's good intentions there, and there's this overused saying, but it's pretty appropriate here. The road to hell is paved with good intentions. Where yeah, it's really easy to blind faith. Blind faith is dangerous.
Yeah.
It's incredibly fucking dangerous, and that goes back to you talking about essentially being in a religious cult. Because when you just have blind faith and every answer is whatever deity. The answer to your every question you have is, it's God, it's Allah, it's whatever. That can become very dangerous. But yeah, just to circle back again, yeah, I don't think it should all be thrown away. I don't think religion should be, demonized or looked at as like stupid or we need to get rid of it. There is good there, and for the people that it helps, absolutely,
Yeah,
totally cool with it.
I
Yeah.
totally agree with that. Did you have religion in the house growing up?
Yeah, so my mom was raised Christian, so when we were younger, she kind of, passed that on to me and my sister. However, she kind of had a bit of an awakening and she separated from being Christian and became more spiritual. So she started to become open to other religions and she started to find the overlaps in
Mhm.
all these different religions. I mean, even going to, like Native American beliefs, Celtic beliefs, Vikings, anything, and she'd find the overlaps and this idea of God, or a God or whatever, it, it's in so many different religions under a different name, but it's all kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And so yeah, she just kind of became spiritual and more open, and that made me be more open. But like I said, I don't consider myself a part of any religion. I don't practice anything. There is something, I know we're not here yet. I know we will eventually get to
Oh, we
this.
can get here.
But well, I was just gonna say, I do believe in the paranormal, okay?
Hmm.
I believe in
Very
that
interesting.
because I have almost daily experiences with the paranormal.
Oh,
But I don't attach any of it to any religion though.
mm.
I don't look at it as angels or demons or whatever. I look at it in a very different way. But I will, like I said, I'll shelf that for a moment.
Oh
If
yeah,
you,
we will definitely circle our background
yeah, yeah,
for sure.
yeah, yeah. But oh, the other thing I was going to say, Kendall said something cool that I just want to touch on too, where he was talking about, how religion came to be and its purpose and its necessities sometimes, and his example of, oh yeah, my parents are gone now, you're living out in the wild or whatever, humanity before we became modern, and it's like, what do I turn to? I don't have any guidance, and it's like, I think what happens is that generations past and even now, you turn to that voice in your head, okay? And what some people will do is they turn that voice in their head into God, okay? Whatever your God is. So the voice in your head is now God. But for some other people, that voice in your head is, well, it's just the fucking voice in your head, It's you. It's you trying to figure this shit out, It's common sense based on experience, based on, oh, if I touch the stove, I burn my hand. Don't touch the stove again, okay? So, I mean, is that God? Is it God telling you not to touch the stove? Did you learn that? Or is it because you fucking touched the stove and you burned your fucking hand and now you know not to do it?
Yeah,
So, but yeah, I just wanted to say that, yeah, I think, dating back to early people, yeah, you just turn to what's inside you. And for some people, yeah, that's God. And that's okay. That's all
yeah.
right.
That that's an excellent point. It makes me think of a couple of things. It is really interesting that, like you pointed out, with like the native tribes, and like seeing the same things with like Nordic tribes.
Yeah.
There's a reason that like these civilizations that had no contact with each other
Oh,
whatsoever
it's so interesting, right? Yeah.
come up with similar ideas.
Yeah.
It raises a lot of questions about consciousness itself.
Yeah, like the collective consciousness.
Yeah,
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Yep.
yeah. Oh, well, we will get there. Yeah. But the other thing it made me think of is fuck.
Sorry, I didn't mean to derail your.
No, you're good. Well, I'm sure I'll remember here in a minute. But
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you that that's what it is. There's one of my favorite authors, Alan Moore, is a comic book artist.
Oh, dude, I'm a huge comic nerd.
Okay.
Hell yeah. Fucking Alan Moore. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. What are
But
you gonna? All right. I want to hear what you're gonna say. Okay.
Alice, if you're unfamiliar with Alan Moore wrote The Killing Joke, which is a very famous Batman comic.
Yeah.
Also The Watchmen.
Yeah. Watchmen, incredible. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
And the comic adaptation of V for Vendetta, I would say, are probably his like three
Yes.
big heavy hitters.
Yeah. Yeah. Three big
But
hitters.
Alan Moore is one of my like dead or alive, like all time favorite people to ever exist. And
Hell yeah, man.
one of his quotes that I think about it all the time. He said, "The language about magic is more about language than it is about magic." And I think this is a pertinent thing when we're talking about God. And it's like,
Yeah.
if it, as a society, if we're being honest with ourselves, we don't really even understand the question, is there a God? What does that mean? What do you really, would you know? Like if you got if the answer is yes, what would that mean? If the answer was no,
Yeah, dude.
what would that mean?
It's
Right?
like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? You get the fucking answer. What's the yeah, the answer is 42. What's the answer to life? 42. Because you don't know the fucking question. You know?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, it means nothing, right? If you can't ask the right question, yeah, what the fuck does the answer matter? Hell yeah.
Like philosophically, we don't even really know what God means. And I think most of
Oh,
the time when people talk about it, they're talking about this um, figure outside of creation that has some kind of sway over outcome. And it usually has some like personalized characteristics to it, depending on the culture.
yeah.
Um, that's usually what people are talking about. My idea of God is more akin to saying that there is no God, which
Mm.
would be something like I think John Lennon said it best, actually. I am he, as you are he, as you are me, and we are all together. It's very
Yeah.
like a Buddhist approach where it's like, I don't think there is a separation between creator and creation. Nothing
That's
was created, there is no creator. There is a thing that is everything, that is doing a thing. And
hell
we're
yeah.
just all different aspects of that thing experiencing itself, just trying to understand the nature of itself. Um,
Right. And you made me think of another Alan Moore quote. I'm probably going to misquote it, so you can correct me. But didn't he say something about we are all the universe experiencing, existence, simultaneously, yet separately. I can't remember exactly how he said it, but I just know that he kind of had something very similar we tied together,
that,
where it's like, yeah, we are all one experiencing the same thing at the same time,
that would
yet independently.
that
Yeah.
would be so awesome if that is an Alan Moore thing, because I didn't even know he was on that
I'll
team. That's
look it up
sick.
when we're done. Yeah, it's like I said, I might have misquoted him, so I apologize to anybody listening who's like, man, that fucking guy said it wrong. But look
Yeah.
up the quote, for yourselves. He's got something
Yeah.
very in line with what John Lennon said. Yeah. Before we say something else, I wanted to quickly add on to the religious thing. I meant to say this before. Kendall made me think of this. What his answer to the question. So I think not knowing is fucking terrifying to a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like not knowing the answers to the huge puzzle of the universe, like all those big questions. Not knowing the answers can really fucking scare you and make you go crazy. So I just think that's another way in which religion can help certain people and how religion kind of comes in because it's like don't be scared for not knowing. It's just God. God created it. God created the universe. God created this. God created that. So don't be terrified by the fact that, the universe is this literal never-ending thing that is expanding into we don't know what because we've never been out there. And, how did we all get created and all the shit? It's like, well, no, no, no. God created us. And then like you can kind of calm down and you can be like, oh, okay. God created us instead of being like, where the fuck did all this come from? You know what I mean? What the fuck was here
Yeah.
before? Like, what existed? What was before nothing? What was the nothing before that? You know what I mean? And you just go crazy. So it's like, no, 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 God. You're like, cool.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a
Yeah.
very useful thing for a lot of people. I know with my mom in particular, like she needs to believe what she believes. Like,
Yeah.
she would not be able to handle not having faith in that,
Yeah.
Um, where I think it's an issue sometimes is like when you go, okay, well, I don't need to do anything then because God's got a
Mhm.
plan. Like, I'm just going to throw my hands up. I don't need to participate. I'm more just like a passive observer to what's going
Yeah.
on. Like, we all need to accept responsibility for the world that we inhabit. A lot of people, like, without getting too deep into this, a lot
Oh,
of
go deep.
it's a weird time right now. Like, a lot of people are uncomfortable, especially in America, and I think we would all agree that there's some big fucking issues. But I think the problem is a lot of people feel like they can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
There's no agency. But the fact of the matter is, oh yes, as a people, we could fucking absolutely do something about it.
Yeah.
It is we have all the control. There's an illusion that the elite control everything, but only because we let them,
Yeah. Only because we let them.
right?
And it's sad because we are probably as people on this planet, the most connected that we may have ever been, okay? Yet there's this illusion, like you said, of we all feel so separate from one another. You know what I mean? And it's like, but we're probably the most connected ever. And it's like you just need to understand that and accept that and embrace it and do something with it
Hmm.
rather than just feel so isolated and be like, well, no, all these people, it's just faces on a screen. Well, no, those faces reside somewhere.
Hmm.
You can find those faces. They don't just have to be on the screen. So
Yeah,
I don't know if that made sense, but
I'm with you. I think I cut you off. I'm ready to go. Were you going to say something?
yeah, talk, Kendall, Jesus.
Well, I'm just thinking the like religion, the necessity for religion is kind of forced on us. I think not so much when we're trying to explain. I mean, when we're trying to explain why the fuck we're here, for sure. But I think it's kind of forced on us when we're wondering why random tragic shit happens to
Hmm.
us, and it's a bit like nihilistic, I guess. But like some horrifically tragic stuff can happen to people for no fucking reason, and like as humans, we're left wondering, like, just as a survival reflex, like, what the fuck just happened? Why? What do I need to do to make sure it never happens again? And if the answer is really just like freak accident or coincidence, like it's a hard fucking pill to swallow. So like we
Yeah,
just chalk it up to like God's plan or some fucking
Hmm.
reason. So it's like it's not just the universe kicking you in the nuts randomly for no
Yeah,
fucking reason. Like you just need an explanation. Why the hell did this tragedy just happen to me?
you'd rather believe anything else rather than there's no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah, especially around tragedy and loss. That's um, when a lot of people go to God, and they go into religion. It's hard, man. It's hard being a person. I was really resentful of my parents too growing up because um like they were pretty straight laced, like they didn't really drink. They've never smoked pot. But my parents were also like on government dope, like prescription drugs. And I judged them for that too. It's like being dependent on this thing. But the same thing with like you were talking about your dad, like he was just doing what he knew. It's like being an adult is hard. I can't imagine what it's like raising kids. Like I can't say I would have done a better job than my parents did. Like all things considered, they did a pretty damn good job. And um, you know, I was like as a teenager, I'm like, I'm never gonna be dependent on a substance. And then it's like you become an adult and have your own relationship with addiction. And it's like, yeah, you can't judge anyone for anything that goes on. Like you just, that's just ignorant. Like you can't, you're not in their shoes. You don't know what kind of struggles people are going through.
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah,
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 yeah. Well, kind of segue a little bit here. I know you've got some stories, so let's start with Kendall.
yeah.
Not quite ghost stories, but is there anything in your life you've experienced that you can't like seems to defy reason?
Well, hold on, I can answer that for him. His fucking abs.
Yeah, that's
They
the
they
closest
really
thing.
do. They really do defy reason.
They just, yeah, they manifested abs somehow. I'm not really sure.
Whoa, you got to teach me that spell.
Yeah, I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, it's great. No, no, no. That's his secret. Yeah.
I
All
think
right.
it's
Sorry.
just
You're
candy.
coveting your magic.
I think it's just candy. Candy is
Eat
the
candy?
potion.
Okay, you heard it here, Alice. The way to abs is to eat candy.
It
This
It
fucking
gets
guy's out here telling people to eat candy and they're gonna get abs. Guys, you
worked
kidding
for
me?
me.
I'm clipping that and making it a clip.
As
All
far as
right.
like paranormal or anything, like I'm disappointed in myself that I don't have like any good examples.
I,
Um,
I think that's a good answer too.
yeah, I just I can't think of anything.
You know, I didn't have any experiences. Nothing happened to me when I was a kid. Um, I never had experiences like that until I got into black magic and started seeking things out.
Yeah.
But like it was a very intentional thing. It wasn't like things happening when I was a kid. But how about you, Michael?
Before I get into that, I just want to ask both of you actually some questions before I start talking about myself. Um, all right. Just by the way, I'm straight edge, all right? Like I don't do any drugs or anything like that, but I'm not against like other people's choices what they want to do. Like I'm not someone who's going to be like, "Oh, fuck you because you do things." It's just a personal choice. But I just wanted to say have either of you, because I know Kendall, you've talked about it a little bit, and this is just something I'm curious about. It's ayahuasca is what it's called, right? Have
Mhm.
either of you done that? And have either of you, has that unlocked anything in your opinions? Or do you think it is just substance? Or do you think it actually does help open up your mind?
I have a lot to say about this, but I'll let Kendall go
Oh yeah,
first.
no, 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 dude,
Um,
dude, say it.
I'm not sure. Like it's on my bucket list. I want to try it. Definitely one of those experiences like I need to experience in life. I'm not sure if there's two ways to do it because it's DMT either way, but you can either
Yeah.
smoke it or drink ayahuasca. And it's from what I understand, like I've talked to people who have smoked DMT. I haven't talked to anybody who drank ayahuasca. Um, but from what I understand, it's kind of like smoking weed versus edibles. Like
Yeah.
one smoking is much more intense. Whereas like if you're, but it's quick in and out, like
Hmm.
for like 10, 15 minutes or so. Whereas ayahuasca, you're just, you aren't hitting it that hard, but you're in this whole other level for like hours. Now the people that I talked to who have smoked DMT, not all of them, but some of them were like deliberately trying to cross over. Like if you hit that shit hard enough, and it's a terrifying experience from what I understand. But like it's like you're catapulted, and everything. It's ego death, basically. Like everything that makes you you is kind of stripped away, and it's terrifying. Like you feel like you're dying. Um, but then you come out on the other side, and from what I keep hearing from people is like you feel like you've been there before, like you remember it. And I know at least a couple people that swear like this is where we came from before we were born, and this is where we go after we die. Um, and just that sense of like the ego death, and you become like one with
Mm.
everything else around. Um, Whether it's real or not, or whether it's just tickling our like pineal nuts. Um, yeah, who
Man,
knows to
that's a
say?
good way to say
That's well said.
Yeah.
it.
Um,
I mean, I like to think that there's something else going on, and for all we know, there very well could be, you know.
hmm,
Whether it's, because personally, I think like time itself like kind of fucks up our perception of things. And once you take time out of the equation, in my personal, slightly nihilistic belief, everything that ever was and everything that ever will be already is. We
hmm,
just experience it linearly. So the bigger question that it leads to me is whether there is actually a kind of sentience that transcends time. And I think we're all a part of that. But that's just me. I like to think there are a few people on board with that.
yeah,
And like once we die, if that DMT shit is any kind of like gateway or portal to like see into it, yeah, like there's a level of sentience that transcends where we are right now, and we're just like in a little fraction experiencing like one perspective of it, you know.
yeah, for sure. I've never done ayahuasca, but I've done DMT probably about somewhere between like 25 to 30 times.
Jesus. All
I
right.
Oh, wow.
Did you
um
cross over?
Damn.
yeah.
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 All right.
I have if y'all are interested after the podcast, I'll tell you a story. But Alice has heard my DMT stories before, so
Yeah.
I won't I'll spare her that again. But yeah, I've met entities. Um I've had profound spiritual like meeting deities and getting lessons that I can retain and bring into it's actually what made me decide to start this podcast was one of these encounters.
Nice.
Um, I've also had experiences that with things that were just totally abstract. Like there are no rules is what you find out. Like the things that make up our natural universe, like physics, time, all of that, just yeah, it's hard. It's impossible to imagine, and it's impossible to really talk about. But if there is nothing familiar, everything is different. Like even the idea of one and one is two, or like I'm me and that's something else. Like when you're just at a blank sheet of paper, like it's just mind-bogglingly weird. Um, and there's nothing really. So I've had experiences like that where it's just profoundly confusing and strange. And then there's something like I can get out of this, like a moral lesson. I've also, and this is why I don't do it as much as I used to. I haven't done it in a long time. I feel like I've been attacked.
Mm.
I felt like I was fighting something for my life, for my soul. Um, So, all of that to say, I used to be an advocate for DMT. Now I don't condemn it, but I think people should make their own decisions about it, whether that's something they want to do or not. I don't like tell people, oh, dude, you got to try this.
Yeah.
Because the fact of the matter is, we don't know. Nobody knows what the fuck that is. I've done it with a friend of mine who is pretty staunchly atheist, and he met an angel, um, and talking to him about it, he was like, if you ask me in that moment, absolutely I met an angel, but looking at it after the fact, looking back on my experience, I must conclude that that was a brain chemistry thing. So
Okay.
what's interesting, yeah, like so like you can still rationalize it as like this was a just a weird brain thing that happened. But even people that are not religious will have. it will at least feel as though they've had an encounter with something.
Yeah.
Um, Even if they can rationalize it later on, in the moment, there's no denying it. That is, and that's my conclusion is that there is more than this. I actually think everything exists, um, both conceivable and unconceivable, exists somewhere. Um,
Yeah.
we as humans have this, as anything in the physical universe, we have this idea of limitations, and like there being a finite thing to it. But I think all things exist. And that actually doesn't give me any comfort
Yeah.
because on and off DMT, I've had encounters with what I would consider demons,
Yeah.
like high level demons. And if I'm right about what I'm saying, what that means is there is a hell. And not only that, there is the worst possible suffering you could imagine. And then there is an infinite level of suffering beyond what you could ever possibly conceive of. Um,
Of course.
so that I don't have any comfort about it. Uh,
No.
Yeah.
yeah, and I tend to focus on the negative, but that also means there's like the most boundless pleasure you could possibly imagine.
Yeah,
Then
right.
it
The opposite
goes
is also true.
infinitely beyond that too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
the
but the negative stuff is cooler. Hell's cooler.
focus
But
on the negative because it helps us survive. It's
oh,
just a
that's a good point.
reflex.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, that too. Mr. fucking logic over here, Kendall.
Uh,
So I I will say whether DMT, is or was involved or not with what you just said, I just want to tell you that I believe everything that that you said. I believe everything that you said. I know it is a hard thing to talk about because for people who don't experience it, we just sound like we're crazy or we're making it up or we want attention or something. And I found that more people don't experience what I will just say is the paranormal, just for ease of conversation, than people who do experience it. So that does make it again very difficult to talk about this openly without seeming like you're lying or you're crazy or something. But just to uh, give you some reassurance coming from someone who has had crazy experiences, I believe you. I believe everything that you said. So for me, this all started as I was a child, okay? And again, I'm probably going to sound crazy to some listeners, like I just said, because if you don't experience this stuff, it's hard to really wrap your mind around it.
Well, you're in
But
good company here.
yeah, but my
This
earliest
is the
memory,
place to talk about it.
yeah. So one thing I'll say, I won't go too deep on this before I move on, but I can confidently say that I have memories from before I was born. And I have memories of whether you want to call it different lives or different souls, what we know, whatever it is, those exist within me. And I can actually then kind of start tracing my life almost from my birth, which again, I know it sounds crazy. It's just what it is. But yeah, some of my earliest experiences, before I was even 6 or 7 years old, I remember seeing what I'll just call entities, okay? Paranormal entities. And they would keep me company, right? Like I would try to fall asleep at night as a toddler, and I could just, look off over my bed and I would see something. I don't know if I mean, I assume you are familiar with like a changeling, right? Okay. Something that can just be any conceivable form that you cannot even conceive in any moment. Time means nothing. It's just constantly, shape shifting, whatever. And I had one of those like in my room as a child, and it would comfort me, and I would fall asleep watching it, constantly change into these things that my child mind couldn't even imagine, right? I've seen dark entities that are just blacker than black, you know what I mean? They're blacker than the darkness. but you can still see them, and I've had them just kind of watching me, hovering over me as a child, right? But as I grew, okay, as I started to get older, and I started to understand that, these things that I'm seeing, I am seeing them, and it's not a child's imagination. Like there's something, for some reason, I can see these things. I consider them my best uneducated, definition or understanding of them is I think of them as like trans-dimensional. Okay, so it's under the umbrella of the paranormal. But yeah, I don't consider them ghosts. Like in your traditional like ghost story, or like, oh, it's a Victorian woman in a white dress. No, that's not what it fucking is. These things look like anything you can possibly imagine, and anything that you can't imagine. Like I've tried to explain them, to my girlfriend and to my friends and to other people, like the things that I see, and I'm like, I don't even know what I fucking saw, but I saw it and it came at me. Um, Most of the time, and I don't know if you have this experience, but a lot of times they seem curious, almost kind of like they're watching me, or they're like, wait a minute, you can see me? And then they're like, oh shit, I didn't think you could see me. And then it's me recognizing that, oh no, I see you and you see me, and it's like, now what?
I
You
think their
know?
interest that exactly that. What
Yeah.
what so like what now? I think
Yeah,
that is
yeah,
the appeal of these things is
yes,
there is something you can give them. That's
yeah,
why they have especially children.
yeah,
Um, that's like I love I mean I've done by the time this goes up it'll be like 204. I've had a lot of these conversations with a lot of different people and I've heard a
okay,
lot of these childhood stories and
yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
have anything like that as a kid, but I think the reason there's this interest and this intrigue is there's potential to that connection.
sure,
Um, there's something that can be done with it. And yeah, there definitely, I know what you mean, where there's like a curiosity, and it's like the same way we're curious about what the fuck is that?
yeah,
Like
right, yeah,
they're like,
it's
huh.
the reverse, yeah, yeah,
Um, and I think the reason it attaches to children specifically, because lots of children have imaginary friends.
of
Uh,
course, yeah,
yeah, it's like, well, that's a phenomenon we should probably look
yeah,
into,
yeah, maybe
right?
do a little more research into that instead of just
Yeah.
writing it off as like a coping mechanism, or a wild imagination. I don't know, maybe, yeah, the
If
window's more open when you're young, so maybe there's more to that, more to again, the collective consciousness, the paranormal, all that shit. It's like maybe there's more there instead of just writing it off as, oh, it's just kids being kids. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and I mean, if we want to get real tinfoil hat about it, I think there might be some reasons why we're not properly educated about this kind of stuff.
yeah,
Um, like people are kind of gatekeeping information.
yeah,
But
yep,
I think the reason it attaches to kids more than adults is when you're a kid, you don't know what the rules to the universe are. So
yeah,
anything is possible. As you become an adult, you have a rudimentary understanding of moving in 3 dimensions and gravity, especially like, learning, like going to school and learning about this kind of stuff.
yeah.
It
All of a sudden,
starts to,
yeah, yeah, rules in a box are put
yes,
over everything for you,
exactly.
and then it's all regimented, and then it's like it goes from school to jobs, and then to life, and then you got bills and this and that, and everything just keeps getting more and more and more just
Hmm.
regimented. No, everything fits in the box, and it's like, yeah, it crushes that. I agree
So,
with you. Yeah,
yeah, exactly. So even if there was a figure in the corner, that's not possible. So I'm not even going to see it. I'm
yeah,
not
and then
going to recognize it at all
those
because,
people stop seeing it.
yeah.
Right, right.
Um, And where I think the thing with psychedelics, a lot of my magic practices have been on mushrooms and acid. These things make you question what the rules of existence are, makes you more like a child, which is, I think, again, I used to be like super big advocate, like, oh, everyone should try mushrooms at some point. And then like I'm at a point now where I've opened so many doors because I don't just trip and watch TV, I do magic. And
Yeah.
I've done so much of that that I cannot be comfortable because it's like when I open up that door, not only do I see everything, but everything sees me.
Yes. Yes.
And like I actually have stronger experiences with it the more that I do it. It takes me less of a dose to go farther and have a more crazy experience. So I'm very scared of all of that at this point in my life.
Oh
Because
yeah.
it's like it keeps escalating.
Mm.
It's
Um,
scary, but again, it's so fucking
yeah,
cool.
it is so fucking cool, and that's why I keep going back to it because I'm like, that was the scariest thing that's ever happened. But like, what else are we doing? Like,
Yeah. Right. Right.
A higher level, like we kind of get boxed into the things that help us survive. Like
mm,
as we become adults and we end up like going to school, going to work, and all that stuff, and the rules that we and structure that we start to live by, they're just learned behaviors that keep us alive. If there is anything life saving or life prolonging in the paranormal stuff, like if there was some sort of survival that we could gain out of it, like it would probably be much more in the forefront of our minds. But it's like we let all that shit go because it's not really helping our lives on a practical
totally.
level,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
absolutely. I totally agree with you. And like, yeah, even in like an evolutionary perspective, like our vision is constructed around picking out the right plants and like being able to hunt and track
Mm-hmm.
things. And that's really all it's focused on is surviving.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. And yeah, like not just evolutionarily, but in a societal point of view, like what you're talking about, it doesn't really well, I would say philosophy in general is definitely like a rich man's game, where it's like we can afford to not be thinking about food right
Ponder
now.
shit, yeah.
Yeah. Like, yeah, no, for sure. It doesn't help anyone, at least as far as we can tell. Now, this actually brings me to the next thing.
Hold on. It
Yeah,
helps
no,
me great.
please go ahead.
My paranormal buddies really fucking help me.
Yeah.
In a
For real.
practical
I'm not
way.
even I know I'm laughing, but like no, this shit, I mean, I get messages, I get guided, okay, let me ask you this. Have you ever, now I know there's the scientific explanation for deja vu, okay, whatever. It's like, oh, your one eye sees this before that, whatever. No, 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 no. I'm talking about deja vu when you're experiencing it for like hours or a day, like you've already lived this moment and you're there. So like I have things like that too, and it's always what's the word I'm looking for? It's reiterated to me that like, oh, I'm currently on the right path, you know? And maybe sometimes I stray from that path that I should be on. But then when I find my way back to where I should be and what I'm doing, I get those moments of, oh, you have already been here. You have already lived this. Keep going because this is going to get you to that next place that you need to be.
Okay.
So even though, like I said, I kind of said that, laughing, like I do think that, and it's probably on an individual basis. Um, there is something beneficial sometimes to some of us with our paranormal buddies.
I agree with you that I mean I've learned a lot from my encounters too, but kind of to Kendall's point, I think what he's saying is like specifically in the sense of getting food and
Oh
like
yeah, right, right. It's not gonna fucking
yeah,
help you with that. Or like, don't get
yeah,
hit by that car. Like, what are you looking at? The car that's coming at you, or the trans-dimensional being floating in front of you? Which one of
for
those
sure.
is the more immediate threat? Yeah, probably the fucking car that could kill you.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think there's a lot of like a lot you can gain from those kind of encounters as well. But it kind of makes sense why it's not more prevalent
Oh
in
yeah.
our senses and in our society if it's not making us like efficient workers at our jobs
Mm-hmm.
or helping us in a more archaic sense, like helping us gather food and stuff.
I think Kendall's just upset that he hasn't had sex with a ghost.
Yeah,
Oh,
a little bit.
we
I really
can
think I mean, it's all stems from that.
if that's
He
what you
saw,
want, we can make
he,
it happen.
right.
I can
Oh
help with
yeah. Yeah, it can happen, Kendall. I mean, he saw Ghostbusters as a little kid, and that scene with Dan Aykroyd just never left him, and he's just never been able to get over it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
that.
talking about.
I've
Nice.
actually got this board right here. You'll get a kick out of this, Michael.
Say I'm all blue. Okay.
This is
Yeah.
an invocation board,
Oh shit! Hell yeah! I
um,
love it.
which I've had a lot of pretty crazy. Actually, the first supernatural experience I had was with this board back in like 2015.
Dude, some of the most fucked up moments that had not only an impact on me, but like people in my life that I wasn't expecting it to, came from, yes, working with working with those boards. Dude, crazy shit. So I can only imagine what what
Yeah,
you
I
yeah.
think when it comes to oh, thank you. Yeah, I was about to do that actually. When it comes to like psychedelics too, I think if you're doing magic, you don't need drugs to do that, to do a ritual.
Yeah.
But I think like something like psilocybin or LSD is like plugging your guitar into an amp. It's like it's it can get you a lot farther.
Right, you can play it without it, but once you're plugged in. You just made me think of something. Talk about magic though. Hold on. One of the like most incredible characters of fiction and who Alan Moore had a huge hand in. Are you a fan of Hellblazer, John Constantine?
Hellblazer.
That comic Hellblazer. Are you
No,
are you not familiar?
no, I'm not.
Oh my
If
God,
it's Alan, I
dude.
mean, I love that you're teaching me about Alan Moore right now. That's
Oh
so
yeah, hell
exciting
yeah,
to me.
man. Dude, you're not familiar with John Constantine?
No. Wait, Constantine the movie?
Well, okay, yes, there was a movie with Keanu Reeves, but
Okay, I'm
there is
familiar
so
with
much
that.
more. There is so much more than that movie, though.
So
So
that comes
much.
from an Alan Moore thing? Holy shit.
Yeah. So, okay. Alan Moore, Garth Ennis, and a couple of other like incredible people who like wrote this character. The comic itself is not called Constantine. The comic is called Hellblazer. Look up the issues that have been written by Alan Moore. I think that you will fucking love it, especially being a magician yourself. So, yeah, check that out.
Oh, dude, I will definitely check that out. Thanks for
Oh
the
my God.
recommendation.
Yeah, because Alan Moore knows what the fuck he's talking about. So
We do a book club on this podcast once a month, and I've wanted to
nice.
do more comic books. So maybe we'll
Do
visit that.
it. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah, do a Hellblazer one.
I'll let you know if we do. I'd love to have you on for that.
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely.
And this applies to both y'all. Any more recommendations you have if for like books or comic books? I'm I have a ever growing list of stuff, and it's never too many. So,
Yeah. Well, it's not like Kendall lives in a house that has like 2 fucking million books in one room.
oh, are you an
Right.
avid reader?
I'm not. I just live in a house with 2 million books
Oh,
in
I
one
got you.
room.
Yeah.
All
It,
sci-fi.
I'm,
it's pretty fucking cool. It's really cool. Yeah.
Part of why I started this book club is because I'm not a quick reader and I'm not like a self-starter
Yeah.
reader. So this like forces me to read a book every month, and we almost entirely do recommendations.
Oh,
So
cool.
I get to read a bunch of stuff that I wouldn't read otherwise because I write poetry and I'm working on a fantasy novel right now.
Oh
And
shit, good for you.
thank you.
Yeah.
Um, but if I were picking the book every month, we would read fantasy novels every month, and that's yeah. It's this gets me more like we've done like the Art of War and
Oh yeah, of course.
like like self-help stuff, nonfiction, autobiographies, like stuff I would never read on my own. So
Yeah.
it's helpful in that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we've been talking about imagination and sort of what would be the opposite of that, which would be like external. So is it in your head? Is it not in your head? Where I'm at is it's again one of those Alan Moore things where I don't understand the question.
Yeah.
I don't know what consciousness is. So, okay, like for example, as we talked about, I've had many encounters with spirits, but what I've never seen is poltergeist activity. And I would
Oh,
love to. I would. I'm a seeker with this stuff. I would like to see that, but I've never seen something levitate. And I've heard many stories on this show from people that have no reason to lie to me about it.
Yeah.
But I've never seen it, and I'm a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to that in particular. But do you have any poltergeist stories, or have yours all been shapes?
Oh no, yeah, I've had poltergeist activity,
Okay.
absolutely. I've never seen something that I'll say, like, all right, before I continue with this, I think most people, and it's just a product of life, we draw a lot of the paranormal, what we think of from like movies, right, and TV shows, right? So like you watch a movie and then you think that that's what it's supposed to look like, and it's like sometimes there are some artists that get it right. There are, there's some directors and there's some people who actually do it the right way, but a lot of that stuff, I mean, it's just not.
Yeah.
It's exaggerated. So if people don't have an experience like what they've seen in a movie, then they consider it like not not real or it hasn't happened. But yes, I have. I had a couple recently. So I was rehearsing my drums actually, playing Kendall Cage's music, and my drums are set up in my basement, right? And the light in my basement started to go on and off, like, I don't know, 10, 15 times. Like somebody was hitting the
Mhm.
switch, okay? Like hitting the switch on and off, right? And yes, I understand. You'd be like, oh, that's just some sort of like weird electric thing happening, whatever. Yeah. And I will tell you, I tried to debunk things first before I immediately go, oh, it's one of my paranormal things.
Mhm.
I do try to debunk things. And I'm like, what the fuck? So I checked the switch, I checked the light, I saw nothing. I was like, I don't know. And then I thought, okay, well, maybe the vibrations from my drums, okay, was like shaking the light bulb or something, and it was kind of like going in and out of the socket or something. Like again, I'm trying to debunk it, right? Now, mind you, fucking 10 minutes later, okay, I start playing the drums again. A separate light in the basement as I start playing does the same shit. But the other light that it did it the first time now is not doing it.
Mhm.
So it's like something was clearly trying to get my attention, right? I mean, other than that, yes, I have seen things get thrown across rooms. I have heard noises that I don't understand where this noise is coming from. And I've gone into a different part of my house or a different part of someone else's house, and I've seen something that has no logical explanation for being moved the way that it should be moved, and it's been moved. Things have been taken from me and put in different places. Things have been misplaced, and I'm racking my brain, and I'm like, how could this possibly go from here to here without someone else's intervention? But there's no one else who could intervene other than myself, and I'm not the person who has moved this stuff. So yeah, I have had poltergeist experiences, not to the extent that I see these entities though. Like when I tell you I see these things almost every day, I'm not I'm not exaggerating. Like almost every single day. And sometimes I have to stop and I have to be like, is that a real person right now? Is it not? Like I don't know. Like I could be at the grocery store and I'm like, what? Is that person really there? I don't know. So like I do see more entities than I have poltergeist experiences. But yeah, it's all there, man.
Okay.
So
I mean, I find it very fascinating, which is why I'm like, I would love to experience that myself because I like not just you, but I've had many credible people tell me similar
yeah,
things.
yeah.
And I find it very interesting because like, okay, I kind of look at this like I come from like a chaos magic background. So
Okay.
I try to create there can be a science to these things, right? So
Of course there
we
can. Yeah,
can even if we don't understand it, we can begin to sort of map out the landscape of how these things work. And if it can interact with the physical world, there is a explanation for that. It just means we don't understand it. That's not to say that it wasn't an entity moving something, but that entity moved something in a specific way.
right. And we don't. Yeah, and we don't know how.
Right.
Yeah.
So, okay, because what I would assume based on your story is that it can manipulate electricity.
Yes,
Um,
I was going to say that energy, always
yeah.
energy of any kind, and I think it requires massive amounts of energy to do
Okay.
anything that is a poltergeist activity. And it's like,
Okay.
well, where is it drawing the energy from? How are they able to harness energy
Mm.
in the first place? How are they able to harness energy in a way that we cannot harness energy in the realm that we are in, but how can they harness it in the realm that they are in? And
Yeah,
how are they able to harness it to the extent where they're literally manipulating things within our realm in terms of moving them or fucking with electricity or all that
yeah,
shit? Yeah. But it keeps circling back to what you're saying about the questions. And I like that you keep saying that, where it's like, you got to ask the right questions, and we don't always ask the right questions. So yeah, we're not
yeah.
going to get the right answer. Yeah.
Well, I think it's part of it is like this, what we're talking about right now is like not taken seriously, and that's a problem.
Oh yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's not it that's an issue because like no, like hey, there's a phenomena here that like especially the scientific community should be looking at,
Well,
especially when we're talking about poltergeist stuff,
yeah.
because that throws what we understand about physics into question. It's especially interesting too, because these are isolated incidents that are not necessarily repeatable. There's not like a cause you could attribute to recreate that effect, right?
Yes, that's very good that you said that. Yeah. Yeah.
So it becomes a thing where it's like, okay, well, the scientific method's not going to work because we need repeated results. We need a experiment done repeatedly with the same result. Um, so what that tells me is there's an intention to it, like someone is causing the lights to not.
Yeah.
And the reason you can't repeat that is because you're not in control of it. Someone
Yeah.
else, some conscious thing is in control of that.
Right. In some moment of non-time.
Yeah.
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 And I think what really hurts this too, and what you said about skeptics and not believing it, dude, there is so much fake shit out there, and there are so many people who profit off of fake footage or even have TV shows, and they're profiting off this stuff, and it's not real. That really hurts the real shit because
Yeah.
then there's so much of that, and then people just laugh at it, or they don't believe you, or they scoff at it, and they're like,
Mhm.
yeah, what the fuck? And it's like, yeah, it's really damaging. You know, somebody who I love but who was a huge skeptic, and I'm cool with him being a skeptic, was Houdini.
Mm.
Houdini fucking debunked so many fucking fake paranormal people back in his time before he passed away. But he did it because he was so fascinated by it and he
Yeah.
wanted concrete evidence. He wanted that eureka moment for him where he's like, yes, this is real. So he made it a part of his life's work before he passed to debunk all those fakers. And I just think that's really cool. I,
Because he
I just
has
had to throw that in
integrity.
there because, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, do you know like the history of Houdini and stuff? Is that
I
someone that you,
know some of the basics about Houdini, like some of his biggest feats.
yeah.
I didn't know his philosophy about it. That's very cool.
Oh, dude, yeah, he was huge into the paranormal, but his big thing was debunking all the
Yeah.
fakers, so that he could find the truth. Yeah.
I think with these things, some of it is so mundane that we wouldn't recognize it as magic. And that's actually where I was going is
Mhm.
I guess a good place to start would be like, how do you write a song? What's that like for you? Is there a specific process or is it different every time?
Um, can be different. Like I try to iron out a workflow. What I've been doing lately is fucking around with sounds till I come up with a fairly minimal beat that inspires me. Then I'll just drop it, do as much of the lyric writing as I can. Um, then at least once I have like the important parts of the lyrics, I'll start like building the rest of the production of the song around that. Um,
I gotcha.
but yeah, I'll just like keep fucking around until I have something that inspires me, and then the biggest inspiration, just run with it. If that inspiration changes later
Yeah.
on, then start running with that.
Okay. So it starts most of the time starts with you kind of like noodling around with the beat until
Mm-hmm.
you find the right groove.
Yeah, it's just
Okay.
fun playing around in the
I
sandbox.
got you. Yeah, the reason I ask is um that is a process that raises a lot of questions for me about the nature of reality because I don't make music, but I do write poetry. And usually it's not when I'm like sitting down trying to write something, something will come to me and then I'll have to like, but it's like you're saying though, it's not a fleshed out thing. It's like, and maybe, maybe I was consciously thinking about it too, like trying to find something. But then once I'll get like a nugget of something and then grab that and start working on it. But I guess I don't know. What where do you think it starts from?
Like the idea.
Do you think it starts with you, or are we tapping into something, I guess is where I'm going with this.
Um, could be tapping into something. I wouldn't jump to give that something much credit though.
Mm.
I think there have definitely been times where like there's an idea in my head and I don't immediately know where it's from, but then I can kind of like trace back the thoughts. And just like see where my subconscious kind of put things together. Like mixing this idea from one thing and this idea from
Mm.
another. And but somewhere along the line I just stumble on something in my head,
Yeah,
like this conglomerate of like everything that's going on in my brain. Um, it's too, I think it's a little too subconscious to really speak on, to be
sure.
honest, you know?
No, and I'm realizing even me asking that is like kind of what we've been talking about the whole time is like what does that even mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
whether it starts with you or starts somewhere else. It's kind of like the more I'm thinking about it, like it's not really the right question. And it's like you're saying too, maybe, I mean, and sometimes you can kind of trace the lineage of an idea where it's like you took a piece of it from here and a piece of it from here, and there's like a totally rational explanation for how that thing came to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also like a system of values. Like it's like if I grow up and develop a taste for like I like these things, not so much these things, then some idea that popped into my head, I like it, popped into my head because it's a certain thing that appeals to me, but it's just it's personal taste, you know.
Yeah.
If I like a certain element of a certain kind of music, I'll be hung up on that. And then like later on, it's like I want this element in my song. Like I just think it would sound great, but I totally forgot where the hell it came
Hmm.
from, you know? Um, yeah.
It's a good point that even if we can't trace the origins, it could be based on things from your past that have influenced who you are as an artist in the
Mm-hmm.
subconscious that yeah. Yeah, it's too big of a thing to try and pin down for sure.
I
I think
don't,
we all agree about that.
I don't think, well, it might not even be, I mean, it's too big of a thing in some ways, and maybe not a big thing in another way, but that kind of like blows it into another question, I suppose. But like personally, in my somewhat nihilistic perspective, all we really seem to be is just a collection of sensors,
Hmm.
you know, picking up whatever information. And like I was talking to Mike about before, like our ability to survive, the essential quality of life is just pattern recognition and being
Yeah.
able to like observe and like sense whatever the fuck is around us, find a pattern and use that pattern and our opposable thumbs or whatever the hell we got to work with to like extend our
Hmm.
survivability, you know? So in that respect, all we are is these beings picking up information and piece reassembling it in whatever ways we are. For better or for worse, in my opinion, that also means like our souls, our consciousness, our sentience is an illusion.
Oh yeah.
Like it's kind of like a shadow on the wall, realizing that it's just a shadow. It's
Hmm.
not. It's not what's actually making the shadow. Like it, the idea that we're really just nothing like floating transients of
Hmm.
molecules going through time. Um, it kind of blows my mind, and it's humbling, but also kind of makes life
Oh
amazing to me.
yeah.
But yeah, a shadow realizing that it's just a shadow, or a machine realizing that it's just a fucking machine. It's almost like, um, I guess, as far as like finding patterns and recognizing it, it's almost like life is like a white cap on a wave moving in one direction in time and just kind of like gaining its own sentience to look around, wonder what the fuck right before it crashes and disappears, you
Yeah.
know?
That's a
Um,
beautiful way to put it.
Yeah, this is why Kendall writes the lyrics.
That's
Did you hear that string of beautiful fucking shit he just said?
bars, dude.
No,
Spitting bars.
seriously, that is awesome. Hell yeah. You know, it's
I love that.
he's for a moment here. Again, I'm allowed to say this because I'm not Kendall. Um, he's too humble sometimes. Honestly, this guy is a hell of a fucking songwriter and he's a hell of a lyricist. And these, whether, where does it come from? Where does it not come from? Is there more to it, less to it? I mean, the music and the art that is inside this guy that comes out, and the fact that these things wouldn't exist if he wasn't here, and for all artists, you know what I mean? That's a kind of a cool thing to think about is like, I mean, are these words already within Kendall and it just takes the time for them to come out? Like, is everything that he ever wrote and will write, or is it already just in there and it just needs to be chipped away and come out? And, if he made some different decisions, none of this music would exist. We wouldn't have any of these songs, just like every other artist. But yeah, I mean, there's something going on. There's something going on inside Kendall's head. Yeah.
This it's so I love these kind of conversations because they are circular and we don't really like it's not like we're, gonna make some breakthrough in this conversation that's gonna
yeah,
like I don't think that, but there is like I do think it's important and if nothing else it's just fun. I really enjoy it
Yeah.
because um for one thing I can't turn this off. This is just what I think about.
Yeah.
But like also like what you're saying like consciousness is the experiential aspect is an illusion of a very complex organic machine, right? Is almost the same thing as saying everything is conscious. Like like that, like on a molecular level, things are conscious. Um, Also, like conceptually, things are conscious. Like I was talking about interacting with spirits. I don't believe in a canonical devil, but I've met Satan, like as real as I'm talking to y'all right now.
Yeah.
I think a big part of that is my subconscious. But the question I have about it is not whether or not that thing exists. My question is, does that thing experience? Like, is there an experiential aspect to concepts?
yeah.
Do
Like,
characters live?
does it have a soul?
Yeah. And I think part of that illusion is time. Like,
Yeah.
what does it mean to be conscious without an experience of time? What would that even be like? Because
I don't know, but that's like the biggest, like a sentience that like transcends time, that can just like go through all of existence and say, I want to be here, I want to be here, I want to be here, like just all of it at the same time. It's kind of a mind fuck.
yeah, yeah, I love when we talk about like the way I see it is they're either like if there is no God and there is a God, almost like there is a God that is everything, or there is no God, almost looks like the same thing to me.
Yeah.
And like whether
Oh,
it's
yeah.
in our heads or not in our heads, again, is like, or maybe it's a third thing that we haven't even conceived of that's neither of those things. It's like just beyond what humans have even considered. We've been going a while, so I'll start to wrap this up here. I appreciate y'all's time. This has
Mhm.
been really fun.
Of course, this has been fucking awesome, man. This is great
Yeah,
conversation.
and
Yeah.
I'm not kicking y'all out. We can hang if you want
No, that's
afterwards.
cool.
But aliens. You used to ask
Mm.
people if they thought they were aliens 200 times. Unanimously, the answer is it's a statistical impossibility for there not to be life out there somewhere.
Huh.
That's almost unanimously been the answer I've gotten. So I've kind of tailored my question a little bit, which is, do you think aliens have ever extraterrestrials specifically? Because we've been talking about interdimensional or like
Yeah, right,
transdimensional
right. Transdimensional beings.
aliens,
Yeah.
extraterrestrial aliens. Do y'all think they have ever been in contact with Earth or even currently here?
Kendall, you first.
Shit. Um,
Is what's great about this is no one fucking knows.
yeah, there's really no way to know, but I think it could be again like levels of sentience, and it's like, what would you consider sentience?
Hmm.
And personally, just from what I observe, I'm gonna try and not get myself off track here, but so the tendency for life in various forms to just come together and create bigger life is a pattern that I see all the time, like from single cells to multi cells to like one fish to a school of fish, or things just eventually get to a point where they start working together. Um, the idea of when our planet gets fried by the sun, like something is going to leave this planet and move on interstellar. Um, I don't think it's going to be human. And I think eventually all things, it's just the definition of what evolution is like it comes together and creates a bigger
Oh,
like form of
fuck.
life. So it's like all of the planet is going to evolve into one organism. In my opinion, AI is going to be like
Yeah.
human beings in our like biological form aren't going to be able to leave here, but AI is sort of like a new evolution onto our brain. Like we have our reptilian brain, we have the mammalian brain, we have our like prefrontal cortex, which kind of like defines, the top of the evolutionary chain here. The next evolution is going to be AI, and whatever, I don't know what else to call it, but Gaia as a planet is going to move on from this world,
Mm,
and eventually the entire galaxy is going to be one sentient thing.
fuck, dude.
Um,
If it's not already, if it's not
yeah,
already.
yeah. If it's not
Yeah.
already, it's just
Damn.
like things start
Yeah.
small and collect together and create bigger
That's
sentience, and to the
awesome.
point where like the universe itself could be sentient and probably is. That's where
Right.
it's all coming from. Um,
And for all we know, there already is AI alien. You know what I mean? There already is AI extraterrestrial. You know what I mean? And it's like, again, going back to the whole poltergeist thing and people thinking about movies, like media or pop culture influences people's brains so much. And when you think about aliens and it's just impossible for you not to think about like, oh, organic or humanoid or whatever. No, why the fuck do they have to be humanoid? Why do they have to be organic? Why can't it be a thought? An alien could be just consciousness, like Kendall's saying, that it doesn't require any sort of extreme circumstance to travel light years if it's just literally consciousness. It
Hmm.
can be everywhere all at once, and it could already be here because it already had because it's been here forever, and it will be here. You know what I mean? So it's like aliens, yeah, sure, they are here because like what Kendall just explained. What is the definition of extraterrestrial? It does not have to be humanoid. It does not have to be organic, So absolutely, man.
That's an excellent point, and I love what you said about that. Yeah, like crabs, right? Like multiple. There have been multiple pathways to reach crabs, like
yeah,
Oh
evolution
yeah, right.
things.
what is that? Yeah, I've heard
Yeah.
about that. I haven't looked into it.
But
But everything evolves into a crab. Is that
yeah,
basically
yeah,
what it
that does
is?
seem to
Yeah,
be the
kind of.
ultimate form.
So the
But
Earth turned into a
Right.
giant crab
oh shit,
and
I
crawl
did.
Right.
on.
We fucked up. Human beings are not we are not peak on Earth. It's crabs.
Oh, yeah, that reminds me of Hitchhiker's Guide. I think it's the last book in that series. So long and thank you for all the fish. It's about
Yes.
aliens come down, but just to get the dolphins.
Yeah,
Right, right, just to get the fucking dolphins. Right. We think
Yeah,
we're the supreme. No, no, no. You're like number three. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. Dolphins are number one. Yeah, yeah.
crab cold.
Crab cult. I'll join your crab cult.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and then don't we'll cut this part out because crab first rule of crab cult. Don't talk
Yeah.
about crab cult.
Yeah, right. Don't
We
talk.
have a sign
Right.
though. We
Gotta
have a
remember
sign.
that. Wait a minute. Hold on. I know we've been talking for a while, but I actually want to ask a question. Kind of. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to take your place here, man. But
No, no, no,
I
you're
want to
fine.
ask Kendall a question. So just to like straight up ask you, Kendall, like right now, today, do you believe in an afterlife? And when I ask that, I mean, do you believe that you, Kendall Morris, when your physical being is not here anymore, are you still going to exist in some kind of conscious way? I'm not talking about energy. I'm talking about like you will still experience and know and think and be. What do you think about that?
I would like to believe that, but I have a feeling that's just like the ego in me trying to survive because that's what keeps us alive.
Trying to avoid
If
the thought of the end, yeah.
Yeah, if there is some sentience after that, I think it's probably transdimensional, which kind of goes to side note. I think like all that quantum shit where things are like appearing and disappearing, like quarks or whatever,
Yeah.
subatomic
Yep.
stuff. There are some molecules that aren't inhibited by time. I think they're just kind of
Hmm.
like they're always existing. They're just going wherever the fuck they want. So I think it's possible. Um, I would like to hope so, like to think so. I hope so. I'd like to think so. On the other hand, if it's not true, it just makes the present moment and being alive here that
Yeah.
much more of a privilege and like a magical fucking experience. Because again, like being the shadow on the wall or being like the white cap on a wave and realizing the fuck am I doing here? Like what all it took to be here. It's kind of I mean, it's a little emotional. It's intense. Like
Hmm.
it's kind of a tear jerking privilege to just be able to witness this,
Absolutely.
and all the good and all the bad. It's still a privilege to experience it.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
but yeah,
I
short answer, I have no idea. I'm
I,
just,
I totally agree with you, man. One
No,
of
you know that was a good answer. That was a good answer. That was good.
I've asked a lot of people, what do you think happens after we die? And one of the best answers I've gotten is because I think about it all the time, but one of the best answers I've gotten is it doesn't matter.
yeah,
And
Ah.
that's the truth of it, is it shouldn't affect how you live your life in the now at all.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm pretty
I love
sure.
that.
I'm pretty sure. Like, if I had to guess on an afterlife, I'd say it's a reality or a consciousness that transcends time. Like when we
Mm.
die, we're no longer inhibited by time.
Well, you know,
Yeah, these rules of man, yes.
on that, on what you were saying about AI and the progression of life beyond Earth, and also on the life and death tip. Um, I think what's going on is everything in life is breathing. It's like an inhale and an exhale. It's like that's literally, like literally we're breathing, but also like the way babies are made is like there's two things that come together and then separate and then come together and that creates
Literally.
life. Yeah, literally.
Sorry.
And like that's I mean, I don't I'm not like I don't understand it on that level, but my understanding is that one of the predominant theories of the universe is that all starts from a point and then expands.
Yeah.
And eventually there'll be heat death where it all collapses. And then eventually it'll expand again.
Mm.
And I think consciousness is kind of the same thing. Like, I'm really big on the Old Testament specifically, because those ancient rabbis that wrote that
That's fun
shit
stories. Yeah.
were fucking geniuses.
Yeah,
Like,
it's nuts.
it's insane how intelligent that stuff is, and we could do a whole other podcast on that. But Yahweh, the Tetragrammaton,
Oh yeah.
the name of God, is an inhale sound and then an exhale sound. It's the Alpha and the Omega, the start and the end. It's also the four Hebrew characters for earth, water, air, fire. It's literally just the thing. It's a name for the thing that is everything. And I think that's what consciousness is too, is there was this one source that splits itself into a myriad of sources. And that's what happens with this singularity with technology that we're reaching. Is the next time we do this podcast and we all had Neuralink, our communication will be happening so quickly that we'll resolve not only any differences, but like character differences too, to the point where we are the Borg. We're just a hive mind.
Yes.
And I
Star
think
Trek reference, finally, thank you.
it was bound to happen.
Yeah, I was waiting.
And I think then what happens is we go, well, this sucks being one thing. I wish we could just upload ourselves to a simulation where we can pretend that we're individuals. And so
No.
then the question becomes, how many times have we done this
I
already?
was gonna say then it just
Yeah.
repeats, then it's just a cycle. Oh
I learned
man.
on the simulation thing, I learned recently that digital sound, which you guys will probably know a lot more about this than I do, digital sound is not a wave. Like that's why there's resolution, the same way there is in like video resolution. Like when you make a wave digitally, it's actually just jagged. The resolution's so good that the ear can't tell a difference above a certain resolution. You can't tell a difference sonically between like um, a physical sound and a digital sound. But if you like zoom in on it, the wave is actually just a bunch of lines. It's not actually round.
Yeah.
So that blew my mind because it's like there is no curve in a digital world. It's all if you zoom in far enough, you'll see the pixels, even in
Mhm.
a digital sense. Like it's clunky like that, which tells me because there is actually curves in reality that this is at least not a digital simulation. It's not binary. It's not zeros and
Oh,
ones.
okay.
Like that blew my mind when I realized that. So even if this is a simulation, it's not in a computer. This isn't ones and zeros. But anyway,
Hmm. Way to debunk that.
yeah,
Hold
yeah,
on, before we go,
yeah,
let
yeah.
me redeem
If you can
myself.
find out and talk about that.
I found the Alan Moore quote. So
Okay.
I just don't want to misquote someone else. So, all right, this is from Alan Moore. So he said, because our entire universe is made up of consciousness, we never really experience the universe directly. We just experience our consciousness of the universe, our perception of it. So, right, our only universe is perception.
Damn.
I just wanted to get that right because, misquoting people, I don't want to be a contributor to misinformation on the internet.
Well,
Yeah.
gentlemen, this has been great. I really appreciate you both for your time.
Oh
This
yeah,
is
man.
Hell
awesome.
yeah.
Check
Sounds
out
good.
Kendall Cage. Y'all are going to be in Buffalo. What was the date on that?
January 31st in Buffalo, New York. We're playing a festival called Burt Fest.
Right
Yeah.
on. Um,
And we need to book a tour. Yeah.
Yeah,
and
and we're planning on hitting the road in 2025 and we got music coming out. Kendall's got some great songs that the world needs to hear. So,
yes, if you're listening to this live, November 22nd, tomorrow is not live, but you know what I'm talking about. If you're listening to this when it airs,
yeah.
tomorrow, November 22nd, Escape from Hell and the Way Back will
Mhm.
be out. So go stream that.
Wait, this was live the whole time? You didn't tell us this.
Oh,
What?
dude, wait till you see the comments right now.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
We're all hella canceled.
Oh no.
That's okay. It was, you can do anything, you'll eventually piss someone off.
Yeah.
But yeah, check out their social medias as well. Kendall Cage official on Instagram,
Mhm.
and Michael Novo. You got socials as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. All of our stuff is linked on the main
Cool.
band pages. If you go on Instagram or Facebook, whatever, or YouTube, yeah, you can find yeah, the main band stuff, Kendall Cage Official, and then you can find our personal stuff as
Right
well.
on. I'll
Yeah.
I'll do some digging and put links to that stuff below here too.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And Alice, we will see you next week.
Yes.